When we first bought this property in 1982 from Joe Butler, this was a peach orchard, and we immediately discovered my husband was allergic to peach trees. But we had intended to plant Christmas trees, and before we actually even signed on the property, we planted our first crop of trees here. This baler is one that Joe Butler made, and he used to bale trees by himself using that. But we find it takes more than that. And the baling process is for two things. It makes the trees more compact so more of them fit in a truck for moving, and it also protects the branches in the process of moving them so that they don't get broken and damaged. Overestimated. We have a couple of larger balers, and one of the tricks is figuring out which trees will fit through which baler. You want them to go through the smallest one they can reasonably go through, but you don't want to kill yourselves either. And one of the things...
It's coming. Yep.
Sure that the netting doesn't all come off.
Ready?
Curtis is a baseball player. He's working out, getting in shape. Okay. Some trees have gotten very tall, and
That's a problem, because then they're not so marketable.
Well, you get to a point where you can't reach them to shear them. And so there are a few trees that we have taken down that I was not able to get to the tops, and I have to take care of those now while they're laying down. It's very interesting. Some people want them to look like they just came out of a factory. And we generally don't do a lot of those. And then some people want them to look a little more natural. And that's what we tend to offer. But now, just had a little sort of bare spot. And you don't really like to do a lot of shearing at this point because the sap, and particularly when it's as warm as it is now. We already had a bunch of rain.
Alright, you have to disconnect it now.
And they will pile these all up, and then they'll get loaded in the truck.
So it's a constant process to get the trees, to get them shaped properly, get the holes filled in.
Yeah. Now a big grower, would have a year-round team, and they go through and they may shear, 100,000, even a million Christmas trees in a year. They do it with knives, machetes, and I have never been brave enough to work with a machete to scare the dickens out of me.
Yeah.
And so we have used the pruning shears.
Right.
Good old hedge clippers, extending ones, and it's a little more labor intensive to do it that way, but it's safer. And a lot of trees that I have spent trying to doctor and fix up are ones that a big commercial grower would just cut them and use them for garland and wreath making. They wouldn't waste their time. This is one where the bottom is pretty nice, but up in there you got that weirdness. So I have to work on training branches to fill in those holes so that it'll look nice. Maybe next year, maybe the year after that, it'll be ready. And something else that you'll see is that we you know, normally a commercial grower would just go through and cut everything flush at the ground. We found at one point that if you leave the stump and a few branches, that you often can get a second or third or fourth tree out of it, out of the same seedling that you initially planted. And because the root system's there is well developed, and as long as you clear out around it and work on it, you can get several trees. And we do, you know, we do sell a lot of tabletop trees, so these work nicely for that. And like here's one that I used to flip out stuff around the bottom. But you can see this little tree right here will be a nice tree in here. And so it's kind of a different take on recycling. They're a little funky looking initially, but if you work on them, they do become all the way down.
We got a lot of business stuff. It's that. It looks like you can make Christmas trees from there up.
Yeah.
But I wanted to make sure before I cut it down.
Yeah, I would cut it here and then cut
Yeah.
these
Okay.
up. Yeah,
I just wanted to make sure before I did that.
yeah. It's like really. This is Kimberly Faga. Her brother Christopher is down one of the baling, the guys doing baling. And she's making garland.
What's the difference between a garland and a wreath?
Well, garland is
Oh, I see.
also called roping.
Okay, roping. I got
Yeah,
you.
so you would be amazed what a difference it makes in if materials are made, if they are cut consistently, it makes it a lot faster. If they are not cut consistently, it can be a very slow process. And of course, every tree that you cut, every branch is a little bit different, and so they behave differently. This is an older one, and it doesn't adjust to clamp them tightly enough, so you have to whack each clamp, each thing, with the hammer to make sure that it's.
So every wreath has a ring inside of it.
Yes. And then I mix in different kinds of greens to give it an interesting texture. So like there's some cedar, there's some white pine in there. And making one of these will take about 2/3 to half a trash bag, you know, like a 30-gallon trash bag of clipping. We'll make about, we'll make a lot here. I'll probably make 150 here, and then we have another of these gadgets on the tree lot, and when things are quiet during the week, whoever's working at the tree lot can make more wreaths there. So we might sell between 250 and 300 wreaths. Now regular, a small wreath, like these, you know, that takes me about 15 minutes to put one of these.
So, how did you you and Phil, young urbanites, learn the Christmas tree business?
Well, when we bought the property, the fellow we bought it from, Joe Butler, who his wife Ann still lives in the house down below, and he taught us how to plant and how to shear and the baling process. And then, I mean, we started retailing using his trees. He was also a grower. We bought trees from him for many years. And we started, the very first year we sold, I think, 40 trees. And they were trees that we bought from him. And first we decided that downtown D.C. was not a place to raise children. If we wanted to have children, we didn't see a lot of point in getting jobs that we had to commute to pay the bank and never saw the kids.
Yeah.
I thought that didn't make a whole lot of sense. So anyway, when we were looking for land and we found the land, and Joe was growing Christmas trees, and we started talking to him, and it made sense. So we started doing that, and one of the things was that we wanted something our children could be involved in, could feel like they had purpose, you know, a function in life, and they started planting when they were 2. They would help with planting. In fact, one of my favorite memories is Nathan, age 2, helping with planting. And we, unlike big growers who you know, run a tractor with a auger through and do holes, we physically dug the holes and, you know, put the seedling in and tamped the dirt, the soil down around it to make a cup, so that if it rained, the rain would, you know, go into the cup. And if you had to water, you could water just the trees, the seedling, and not, you know, not have to be wasting water on running all over the ground. Anyway, and so the seedlings would sit in one of these buckets of water until they went into the ground. And so one of the things that a 2-year-old can do is walk to a bucket and pick a seedling up and bring it to you. So Phil is on the ground, you know, planting. Nathan, get me a seedling. Nathan would bring him a seedling. He'd bring him a seedling. And about, I don't know, 20 trees later or so, Phil suddenly realizes, as he looks at the seedling he's been handed, that it has soil on the roots. He says, Nathan, go get me a seedling. And he watches him, and Nathan, ever the efficient one, walked back about 2 trees and pulled it up. So Phil had been replanting the same 3 seedlings. That was one aspect of children being involved. And they, you know, they planted, they helped with shearing, they helped with spraying, they helped watering when they needed to be watered. they would help with the cutting, the baling, the loading, the moving.
So it was a family business from the beginning.
Very much a family business.
And this made them what they are today.
And
Have they forgiven you yet? Or?
no. But you know, knowing full well what's involved, and of course they're both not here doing this part of it anymore. But they will each come in from their respective locations. Nathan lives in San Diego, and Matt is in New York. And they will each come in and be at the tree lot for a couple of weeks, so that one or the other of them is there for the duration. And they are now, doing marketing stuff. They're
I mean, marketing for the family business.
yeah. Nathan is doing a lot of the social media. He is actually coordinating marketing this year. And he is doing social media. He's arranging relationships with organizations. Like he's involved in an organization called First Tee that uses teaching kids golf as an incentive to get them to study and work on their academics. And so he reached out to the First Tee operation in Washington, and they will promote our trees, and they will get a donation in support of their activities. And so it's a mutually beneficial arrangement. Salvation Army is another one that and these things are pretty heavy. They take a lot of material. As you get down to the last couple of clamps, it's a little bit challenging to get in there.
You put other decorations on them, like red bows
I'll
or.
put some cones and a bow. And
And where do the cones come from? You buy them, or do you produce them?
we mostly collect them. I have bought some, but some of the white pine. One of the ladies who has helped with this, who often does clipping, has a bunch of white pine trees at her house, and she was wanting to trim off some of the bottom branches. So some of the white pine that we have came from her, but she also collected a bunch of cones, and I've collected them. Just whenever I find them, come across ones that are nice, I'll collect them and then I'll wire them and have them available to use. Okay. This is getting that last one in there is